Okay, a warm welcome to the DFF, Deutsches Filminstitut and Filmmuseum, to our already last screening of the films of Antoinetta Angelidi and now today also Rea Walldén, because she made, they wrote the script together for this film, and Rea will also translate as all the other days, so thank you for this. And yes, so as usual, Antoinetta will say, and Rea, they will say a few words before the screening, and afterwards we have the opportunity for a discussion.
Thank you a lot. Πάρε εσύ, ξεκίνα εσύ.
Okay, thank you for being here with us tonight. We thank again Natascha Gikas and Gary Vanisian for inviting us here, and the German Film Institute and the Film Museum, as well as the Frankfurt Film Collective. So what you're going to see tonight is a film about 3 different versions of the same day. It is, there are 3 siblings that are living together. It is a single day, the entire film, and this single day you will see it in 3 different versions, because it is the multiplicity of reality what we are looking about. And during that day, which is a Good Friday, a thief enters the house of these people, and this thief acts as a unifying feel. It is mortality. What unite us as human beings. We have different ways to see the world, but still we have something in common, something very crucial in common. Now, the film is in 3 parts, different length and completely different styles. They are supposed to discuss different approaches to reality. So the first is fate, the second is randomness, and the third is free will. And well, the rest you will see.
Εγώ θα ήθελα να σας πω για την αρχική έμπνευση του φιλμ, που είναι η Αντιγόνη, δηλαδή ένας ηθοποιός, ένας άντρας ηθοποιός, προετοιμαζόταν κάνοντας πρόβες για να παίξει την Αντιγόνη. Ήταν ο Νίκος Κυλοδήμος, και στη διάρκεια αυτών των προβών που θα ετοίμαζαν να ανεβάσουν Αντιγόνη με τον ίδιο στο ρόλο της Αντιγόνης, αυτοκτόνησε ακριβώς όπως αυτοκτόνησε η Αντιγόνη, δηλαδή κρεμάστηκε.
So the original inspiration for the film comes from a real event. It is the suicide of the actor Nikos Kylodimos, who was to play the role of Antigone, and Antigone rather in English. So Antigone dies by hanging herself, and this actor actually hanged himself while rehearsing to play Antigone, and this was the inspiration for the film.
Και τα 3 πρόσωπα, αυτά τα 3 αδέρφια, αυτές οι 3 προσεγγίσεις, είναι 3 διαφορετικές Αντιγόνες, που μπορεί δηλαδή ο ένας να είναι Αντιγόνη, αλλά και δουλέψαμε και τις 3 μορφές να ήταν Αντιγόνη, και από αντικείμενα δημιουργίας προσπαθήσανε να γίνουν υποκείμενα δημιουργίας με κάθε κόστος.
So in the film, each character, these characters of different approaches, which by the way is a sculptress, a scientist and an actor, all of them are Antigone, different Antigones. And all these Antigones, while they are objects of creation, they try to become subjects at every cost.
Okay.
So we will discuss afterwards. Have a good screening.
I start with one question. In the theater play of Antigone, so there is Antigone, and she has her 2 brothers, which she is sparing. And now here we have 2 sisters, And the role of Antigone is played by the man. So can you tell us a little bit about this? Is this I don't know. I was just asking.
Είναι δύο αδέρφια και η Αντιγόνη.
Υπάρχει και η Ισμήνη βέβαια.
Ναι. Εγώ θα έλεγα ότι πιο πολύ το θέμα των τριών αυτών αδερφών είναι μία σύνθεση από διάφορα στοιχεία και πολύ συνειδητά κάναμε, εφόσον έτσι κι αλλιώς ήταν η αρχή αυτή ότι θα είναι άντρας η Αντιγόνη, αυτό ήταν το αρχικό αυτό. Οπότε με αυτή την αλλαγή το πρόβλημα ήταν η σύνθεση αυτών των τριών προσώπων, τα οποία έχουν στοιχεία από πολύ διαφορετικά πράγματα, που θα αντιμετωπίσουν ένα θάνατο που έχει αρσενικό πρόσωπο, που είναι όμως μια γυναικείο σώμα. Πες καταρχήν αυτό ότι
αυτό
είναι...
που είπες εσύ πρώτα,
ναι,
και θα συμπληρώσω κάτι κι εγώ.
Okay. Ναι.
So, all the characters are composed by different elements. So, from different elements, also from the tragedy of Antigone, and not only from that.
Not only from that.
We did start with the initiation point that it would be a male actor playing the female Antigone, because of the inspiration of Nikos Skylodimos, and also because of the past of tragedies played by men. But also a very important choice that we made was that thief is played by a woman, although it is he thief. Then people who don't speak Greek don't understand that, but in the film it is the thief is male in name but female in body. So there is a kind of discourse around the different versions of gender going on here. I would like a question of the construction of gender, and afterward you must have noticed that there are a lot of discussions around what gender is throughout this film. If I may comment on the part, the specific question about the reference to the tragedy. In the tragedy, yes, they are the two brothers, the one that it is a traitor and the other who is the hero. But also there are two sisters. It is Antigone who raises above the role of woman and raises against the city, and Ismini, who is the apparently female one, who chooses not to raise against the city. In here, all the characters are Antigone and are using elements. So from the beginning, it was constructed in a way that it is not a one-to-one relation, but basically everyone, at least the three main characters, is Antigone. And this notion of having the tragedy be dispersed into different levels of this world. Yeah.
Θα πω κάτι συμπληρωματικά σε αυτό που λες, ότι ένα χαρακτηριστικό σημείο που μπορείτε να δείτε αυτό το θέμα είναι ότι επειδή κάθε ένα από αυτά τα τρία πρόσωπα είχε μία, θα μπορούσαμε να πούμε μία εκτροπή, ψυχική εκτροπή, και ότι όταν είδαμε τον ηθοποιό που παίζει την Αντιγόνη να πλησιάζει τις δύο γυναίκες και να λέει αυτό, αυτές οι δύο μιλούσανε μόνο με φράσεις,
και αυτός ο ίδιος.
Ναι, και αυτός ο ίδιος, αλλά από άλλα πρόσωπα της τραγωδίας. Δηλαδή ήταν δύο πρόσωπα, αλλά χρησιμοποιούσαν και τον Γκρέοντα και τον...
και την Ισμήνη και την Αντιγόνη και ανταλλάσσουν.
Και αυτή η αίσθηση, αυτό είναι το ένα σημείο, μπορούμε ψυχαναλυτικά να ορίσουμε ότι αυτό κατά κάποιο τρόπο ήταν η παρανόια του ίδιου του ηθοποιού.
So we are taking inspiration in order to build the world of each character from different mental conditions. And the case of the actor is paranoia. So he sees in the world around him the play of Antigone to be dispersed everywhere. And this culminates in the sequence where you must remember that it ends where congratulations to the director. It is the moment where they speak literally with phrases from the tragedy. So every person at that moment uses this in a distorted way because of the context, phrases that already appear in the tragedy, but from other characters, not necessarily the correct character, and not necessarily in the correct way, because by making a collage of the words, it creates something different. And this culminates to his feeling that everything is staged, so he asks for the director of the world.
Ότι έβλεπε δηλαδή τον κόσμο σαν σκηνοθεσία.
So he perceived the entire world as being staged. And additionally, so each of them takes one interpretation of the play of Antigone. So they find themselves. It could have been a story about faith. It could have been a story about mourning. It could have been a play, and it is a constant self-irony and self-commentary of what you expect, of what our culture expects us of those positions. Already, for example, the fact that the free will is the only one that ends in suicide. Of course, here we remember the existentialist dictum that it is the ability to commit suicide that proves our freedom. But it is self-ironic because it is the only one who actually dies. And the whole, again, an irony of the fact that free will is a man while the other positions are women. But yet, it's not really that, because it's not that every person, every character is a position. All of them in each version we see differently. So that's why structurally each part of what you see basically the same things, even if you don't recognize them. For example, we have what happened with this house? Was it burned by God? Was it an accident? No, in the end, it is the woman who burns her house herself. And what happened to the actor? Was he murdered by God? Was by mistake hanged himself? No, he committed suicide. So they are supposed to be equivalent, the positions, but because of the process of the time of the narrative itself, there is an indication that the last opens up a possibility of being more close to what happened. And we have in the end this very strange table, this dinner.
Και αυτό ήταν κάτι το οποίο αποφασίσαμε την τελευταία στιγμή, όχι τελευταία στιγμή, στο τέλος
της συγγραφής,
ότι αφού κάναμε τα τρία μέρη, είχαμε κρατήσει διάφορες σημειώσεις ενδιαμέσως και λέμε, μήπως αυτές τις σημειώσεις, τις δικές μας πάνω σε αυτά τα θέματα, να τις βάλουμε στο τέλος και ουσιαστικά να μιλήσουμε εμείς οι ίδιες για αυτά τα θέματα. Δηλαδή, και είναι αυτό το μεταγλωσσικό παιχνίδι το οποίο υπάρχει στο τέλος. Και το πριν θα πω εντωμεταξύ, πριν έχω να πω κάτι άλλο πριν.
Αυτό που είπες, θα πω κάτι για να αυτό φτάσω εκεί. So the symmetry of the structure means that in every section you see some things happening. For example, the game with death. which is in the beginning are the cards, tarot cards. The second is dice. The third is chess. Or in the end, you see a procession. That a different procession. In the beginning are the self-flagellators. The second is the mourning, and the third are the actors. So you have a repetition. There is also the repetition of the dinner. Which dinner, the last dinner, however, in the third place, has a very different function. And then Antoinetta described to you before how this came to be. Throughout writing the script, we were also keeping notes. It was a kind of discussion among ourselves, either commenting on what we were doing, or having, for example, this conversation about whether you need to have a distance in order for communication to exist and this kind of stuff. So it was a kind of meta-discourse on what we were doing. And at some point, towards the end of writing, we said, this seems interesting. What if we took all our notes, all the conversation, and put the characters to actually say the things? So the final dinner became a meta-linguistic, a meta dinner, where everyone, and it is a little bit annoying, the fact that they actually say what they are and what they do. So it is a very strange commentary on itself. And of course, it gains an annoying burden, because when you say very heavy things in the end. So among that, we have the scientist who says that the Earth is round, because it is a little bit also taking a distance of itself, because things are okay. All these horrible and heavy things are also very everyday, very obvious. And so there is a constant, even the end, comments on itself. They laugh. They say, okay, it's sure that we will die. Shall we live? And then it's sure that we will die, and we laugh. This is horrible, but it is not so horrible if it is the person who is to die who is laughing. And we all are, so we have the right to laugh for ourselves. But then, in the end, it is the final, which, let's say, the finishing motto of the film, which was very significant for us both, that it's something a dead person says. So what I did with my life, what I spent is what I had. What I kept for later, what I lost. There's nothing afterwards. But what I gave to others, this I still have. So this is our position in the end of all that.
Are there any questions from the audience already?
Yes. For some reason, we were sure you would make a question.
Yeah, I just want to break the ice, because you deserve to be in dialogue. There is a reference to Tintoretto's Lamentation of Christ.
Yes.
Say something about this.
More than that.
Yes, it's much more than that. Ναι, δεν είναι, δηλαδή, Tintoretto είναι πολύ περισσότερο από αυτό, με την έννοια ότι ακόμα και το είδος της έκφρασης των επαγγελμάτων των προσώπων είναι ήδη εγγεγραμμένο κατά κάποιο τρόπο μέσα στην ίδια την εικαστική τέχνη.
It's much more than that. Even the choice of professions of the three characters is inscribed in the history of art.
Και έτσι έχουμε η πρώτη που είναι γλύπτρια. Τι έχουμε βρει από μια εικόνα μεσαιωνική, όπου ήταν μια γλύπτρια η οποία έκανε εικόνες, τα γλυπτά για τάφους, όπου όμως πάντα στους τάφους έκανε το σχήμα του δικού της
Αυτό είναι η δική μας ερμηνεία του.
Ναι, τι βλέπαμε και το θέμα είναι ότι το κάνουμε σε αυτή. Η δική μας γλύπτρια αυτό κάνει. Και επίσης είναι ένα πρόσωπο το οποίο έχει μια ιδιόμορφη σχέση με την θρησκεία, διότι είναι περίεργα ιερόσυλοι και δεν πρέπει να παρεξηγήσουν ότι εκεί που σκαλεί στο τέλος και λέει δώσ' μου διάκριση, δεν είναι η διάκριση της τέχνης, αλλά να διαχωρίζει. Είχε δηλαδή σύγχυση να διαχωρίζει τι είναι το σωστό και τι είναι το λάθος. Και αυτό που έβλεπε και στην αρχή την είδαμε έτσι ξαπλωμένη, ας πούμε, που τα κομμάτια, και που έτσι κι αλλιώς για μένα σκηνοθετικά η αναφορά μου είναι το βαμπύρ του Ντράγερ. Ναι,
ας το πούμε αυτό και συνεχίζεις. To start with the sculptress. The inspiration is from an illumination, a medieval illumination of the lives of important women. You know this Roman text, the lives of important women. In this illumination, there is a sculptress who sculpts a woman's sculpture, which is very much as if it is her own face. It's very similar. It's as if she is making her own face. So what we were thinking on that was a sculptress who made on the tombs of others her own face. That was our feeling. So our sculptress does that. Now, this sculptress has a very tormented and distorted religiosity. So, which we're not sure if you get it. For example, the Annunciation is a distorted Annunciation. It is a reference, but it is a distorted reference to religiosity. And what is the crucial thing with her is that she cannot discern. She cannot discern right from wrong. So in this, the moment of her great crisis, what she's praying is praying to discern, not to be confused in a way.
Ναι. Η δεύτερη περίπτωση είναι μια γυναίκα η οποία είναι επιστήμον. Η τυχαιότητα είναι η φιλοσοφική της άποψη. Και παρότι έχει χάσει το παιδί...
Ξέχασα το βαμπύρ του Ντράγερ. I forgot to say that because every part is inspired visually from a different approach to reality. So the first part, which is dense, it is the fate that keeps us bound. The inspiration is Vampire by Dreyer. Okay, so we go now to the scientist, the second one.
Και μπορούμε να πούμε ότι αν θεωρήσουμε, γιατί έτσι το είχαμε σκεφτεί, ότι αυτά τα τρία πρόσωπα συν ο κλέφτης είναι τα 4 στοιχεία.
Ας το μετά τελείωσε πρώτα την προηγούμενη ιστορία.
Ναι, καλά, θέλω να πω ότι η λαξεύτρια είναι η φωτιά.
Η φωτιά. Okay. There are many levels in which all of them are divided. So one of the many levels is that every one of the 4 characters is one element. So the sculptress is fire, the scientist is water, the actor is earth, and thief is the wind. So now we are going... Then I will say about the speech. Να πω για το λόγο.
Ναι, πες για το λόγο.
Very fast. The first part is silent, a reference to silent movies. The second part, you can hear the speech of the people. And in the third part, you can also hear their thoughts. So that's why the beginning is very silent and the end is very full of words. So we are going back to the scientist.
Η οποία... δεν μπορεί, υπάρχει ένα θέμα με το οποίο έχει βγει μέσα από διάφορα διαβάσματα και μάλιστα Τζούλια Κρίστεβα έχει γράψει, ναι, αλλά εκεί υπάρχει ένα θέμα ότι αυτή η γυναίκα, επειδή πονάει πάρα πολύ και δεν μπορεί να το αντέξει, υποχρεώνει τον εαυτό της σε μικρούς πόνους που η λαξεύτρια την κατηγορεί ότι την χτυπούν.
Ναι,
Και
ναι.
Ότι αυτό είναι το θέμα, δηλαδή ότι αυτού του είδους, ας πούμε, ο μαζοχισμός προέρχεται κατά κάποιο τρόπο σαν μια προσπάθεια για θεραπεία, η οποία δεν έρχεται παρά μόνο μέσα από την αποδοχή που έχει με το παραλήρημά της,
που ξαναβρίσκει
το λόγο.
So I will say all that Antoinetta said, adding some things too. So the scientist, which is also female scientist, but it is not obvious in the English language. So the scientist, obvious, science is randomness, so not a belief in fate. Now this character was built on a notion of masochism, but why? Because she's using, and this is inspired by Julia Kristeva, she's using smaller pains to be able to get by the bigger pain of her loss. So this also the way that the two sisters are built, this is my addition, but of course she knows, their speech is inspired a little bit by Jakobson. He was in the beginning of 20th century. It's not sure that as a scientific theory is correct, but it is very full of inspiration for us. He described two different kinds of aphasia. So a little bit the way that the dialogue of the two women is structured, is, I mean, created in that respect, is by the two types of aphasia. So they are kind of complementary to each other in the way that the one starts and can't finish the word and the other cannot begin but finishes. So there is a very strange thing going on there. And in this day that each of them actually make a choice. The first one made the choice to burn the house down. It's not that religious and that it is completely opposite to what you would expect. The second one comes in terms with her mourning. And how does she manage to do that? Through a process. We have the water libretto, if you saw it, is a long, where she's in the same with the child. So this is constructed again, inspired by Jakobson, how children find the way to speak. So she puts herself in the position of the child she has lost, and it is a strange mourning where it works. It is she and the child and something else in the same time, and slowly she manages to accept that she is in pain and therefore she's alive and she can live. So she's not staying to get burnt with a house, she lives too. And then we have the third.
Έχουμε λοιπόν τον ηθοποιό, ο οποίος έχει, αν ας πούμε ακριβώς αυτό, η μεν λαξεύτρια έχει τον άγγελο, δηλαδή έχει την αποκάλυψη κατά κάποιο τρόπο, αν η επιστήμον είναι το παιδί, είναι ο εραστής και ο εραστής της, που είναι μια μορφή, μια σχέση με το θέμα του πώς λύνεται το πρόβλημα του. Ναι. Και ο ηθοποιός στο τέλος που είναι ο σκηνοθέτης από τον οποίο περιμένει να είναι και
Θεός και εραστής και παιδί και όλα.
Ναι.
Εδώ μάλλον πρέπει να πω για τον κλέφτη. Antoinetta started describing what is going on with the actor, and by describing the actor, we arrived to the thief. The thief goes from the universes of the different characters, and each character projects on the thief different things, because the thief is empty. Thief or reality. Thief is the reality, thief is death.
Είναι οθόνη προβολής.
It is a screen for projection, Antoinetta says. So they all project what they need. And if the sculptress projects God, the angel. If the scientist projects some kind of lover, which is not a lover, it's a communication that helps her to go on. Of course, the actor projects the ideal director, who should have been God and angel and lover and child, but of course is nothing of all that. There is no director. So...
Και είναι αυτό, δεν υπάρχει director, και αυτό φαντασιώνεται διάφορα πράγματα. Ακούμε βεβαίως, διότι ακούμε αυτό το κεφάλι του κατά κάποιο τρόπο. Τον ακούμε λοιπόν, ακούμε τη φωνή του σκηνοθέτη εκτός πεδίου να τον διορθώνει και να λέει αυτός γιατί δεν μου μιλάς, και του λέει δεν ξέρεις τι λέω στους άλλους, γιατί λες στους άλλους, το αθαίνω από τους άλλους. Όχι, δεν ξέρεις τι. Επανάλαβε, ξαναπες το ίδιο, άσε τις λέξεις να πέσουν.
So at some point, I don't. Probably you observed, you took notice. We hear off screen the directions of the director, but it is off screen. We don't really know that there is a director there. It might be in his head. So, and it is this dialogue that all this anguish of the actor that I can't hear you. I don't know what you want. I understand who you are from what you say to the others. Who others? And the voice says, but you don't know what I'm saying to the others. So yes, it could have been, God, the director. And yeah. Yeah. So if you have any other questions. Yeah.
Κάπου διάβασα στο τέλος τη συμμετοχή του Ντίνου Χριστιανόπουλου.
Ο Ντίνος Χριστιανόπουλος μετέφρασε το κατά Ματθαίον Ευαγγέλιο. Γράψαμε στο τέλος ποιοι είναι οι μεταφραστές.
Ωραία.
Όπως τώρα την Αντιγόνη, η μετάφραση που χρησιμοποιούμε της Αντιγόνης είναι του Νίκου Παναγιωτόπουλου, του ποιητή, και η μετάφραση του κατά Ματθαίον είναι του Ντίνου Χριστιανόπουλου.
So the question was that the lady read in the end titles the name of a poet, Dinos Christianopoulos, and she asked why. And Antoinetta explained that Dinos Christianopoulos did the translation of the New Testament in modern Greek, so we use this translation. And also another poet, Nikos Panagiotopoulos, did the translation of the ancient text of Antigone, because we used modern texts for both. Whatever you understood.
Δεν είναι πρόβλημα αυτό. Δεν είναι καθόλου πρόβλημα.
No problem at all. Whatever you understand.
Όχι, δεν υπάρχει λόγος. Μπαίνοντας κανείς αφήνεται και σκέφτεται τα δικά του πράγματα. Έτσι αισθάνεται το κινηματογράφο. Και εγώ έτσι πάντα τον αισθανόμουν. Δεν ξανάγκαζα τον εαυτό μου να καταλάβω τίποτα. Και εγώ,
να το μεταφράσω γιατί δεν θα προκαταλάβω.
Ναι.
So the lady says that whatever we understood, and Antoinetta says that's fine. You don't enter in a film room to necessarily whatever you understand. You may think your own things. After all, Antoinetta, when I enter, I understand what I understand. You don't go there to find the intention of the filmmaker.
Και πρέπει να πω ότι πάντοτε αισθανόμουν πολύ καλύτερα με τις διάφορες συνειρμικές αφηγήσεις, γιατί αφηνόμουν, και είχα προβλήματα με τον κλασικό αφηγηματικό κινηματογράφο, ο οποίος μου φαίνεται εντελώς ακατανόητος.
And she must make a note here that she always felt much better with the narrations that have associative relations, while classical narrative cinema for her was always completely unintelligible.
Ναι, διότι θεωρώ πραγματικά ότι η έννοια της αφήγησης εξαναγκάζει τους ανθρώπους να βάζουν το μυαλό τους μπροστά και τους εμποδίζει να αισθανθούν, ενώ το σινεμά πρέπει να μπορούν να το αισθανθούν.
Εγώ δεν συμφωνώ.
Ναι, αλλά το ξέρω. Έχουμε μια διαφορετική άποψη του θέματος.
I will translate what Antoinetta said, and I told her that I don't quite agree, and then I'll tell you what I think. So she says that one of the problems of narrative cinema is that they put you down and oblige you to think and impede you from actually feeling, which is more important. And I say, I don't agree with that. I don't think, first of all, that narrative cinema necessarily makes you to think. It would be a good idea if it did.
No. Σε εξαναγκάζει.
I think they oblige you to feel what they want you to feel, instead of feeling what you feel and think what you think.
Ναι, αυτό, συμφωνώ ότι αυτό είναι έτσι, αλλά σε εξαναγκάζει να αρχίσεις να σκέφτεσαι. Όχι, αυτό είναι πριν από αυτό και αυτό είναι πριν από εκεί και εκείνη. Η σειρά φτιάχνεται με αυτόν τον τρόπο και το καθεξής.
So, she says, it's not as if it makes you a critical thinker, it is just that narrative cinema obliges you to think, oh, this comes first and the other comes next, and this is the right order of things. So it is a very narrow way of thinking. It's not a question of thinking generally.
Ναι, ακριβώς.
Because you understand, it's not, in my opinion, it's not a bad thing to make you think.
No. Συμφωνώ με αυτό.
I don't think it's necessary, but sometimes it's very interesting.
Ναι, αλλά όταν πηγαίνεις στο σινεμά, αφήνεσαι σε όλες σου τις αισθήσεις. Και το μυαλό σου φυσικά.
Και το μυαλό είναι αίσθηση.
Είναι μια αίσθηση, αλλά δεν είναι η μοναδική.
So when she says, when you get to cinema, you have to leave yourself and all your senses to be free. And I say, yeah, but thinking is also a sense. And she says, okay, but it's not the only one. So if you want to include yourselves in our discussion...
Εγώ σκέφτομαι, δηλαδή πάντα σκεφτόμουν ότι ο mainstream κινηματογράφος επειδή κατά τη γνώμη μου είναι πολύ μικρό μέρος της δυνατότητας του κινηματογράφου.
I agree.
Ναι, πες το αυτό, επειδή...
So she has always been thinking that mainstream cinema is a very small part of what cinema can do, potentially.
Και πιστεύω ότι δεν είναι μόνο το γεγονός ότι χρησιμοποιεί ένα μικρό μέρος από τη δυνατότητα του κινηματογράφου, αλλά πιστεύω ότι εξαναγκάζουν τους ανθρώπους να θεωρούν αυτό το σινεμά, ενώ νομίζω ακριβώς ότι τα avant-garde και τα πειραματικά είναι εξ αρχής φτιαγμένα για όλους τους ανθρώπους. Δηλαδή όλη αυτή η κατηγοριοποίηση, ας πούμε, που λένε ότι είναι για λίγο κόσμο, είναι λάθος. Είναι αντίθετα φτιαγμένο για όλο τον κόσμο, απλώς ζητά ανοιχτότητα. Ανοιχτότητα, ακριβώς. Από τη μεριά του θεατή να μην εξαναγκάζει τον εαυτό του, όχι τίποτα άλλο.
So, Antoinetta says that mainstream cinema, while it is a very small part of what cinema can do, has obliged the audience to think that this is the way that they should think, and this is the way that cinema should be. And this is what is addressed to the many, to the multitude, while in reality what we call experimental or avant-garde cinema, which is much more multiple, it is made to be addressed to everyone. It's not an elite thing. But what only demands from us, from the audience, is an openness. If you enter not with preconceptions, just open. Yeah, I agree.
While we are discussing cinema, so for me it's like a bit between what you do, a little bit between metaphysics and physics. But I ask myself, why are you confining yourself on theater and the theater space, which I have the impression that's really a question for me, because I think it does some harm to cinema if you confine yourself to theater. So that's...
We don't in all our lives. Λοιπόν, θα σου μεταφράσω, αλλά θέλω να απαντήσω και εγώ. Λοιπόν, λέει, τώρα που μιλάμε για το σινεμά, και γιατί περιορίζετε τον εαυτό σας στο θέατρο? Γιατί αυτό κάνει, βλάπτει τον κινηματογράφο ο περιορισμός στο θέατρο. Ναι. Μπορώ να απαντήσω πρώτα εγώ.
Εσύ και έχω και εγώ να πω.
So, I will give an answer first and then she will also answer. Okay. So, first, let's be honest, this is not the only film that we have done, either she or I. So in this particular one, we use the metaphor of theater in order to discuss the human condition. It is not as if theater is the one and only thing that we speak about and we deal with. I would argue that despite the fact that we are dealing with a theater actor, this is not theatrical. It is a cinematic way to speak about the theatrical, despite the ritualistic aspects of it, which is obviously a kind of ritual that plays with playing in theater. The fact, for example, that very consciously we see different views of where we see. So it's Antoinetta, and here I speak for her, defending her. She's very much against, and me in my theories, against the notion, for God's sake, for goddess' sake, cinema is not theater in cinematographed. That is no way. But I really don't think that this is what is happening here. It is just that we are dealing with the machinery and the metaphysical machinery that goes around theater in our culture.
Ακριβώς. Και επίσης είναι ταυτόχρονα, γιατί δεν λέει, ας πούμε, ότι εκτός από το θέμα του θεάτρου υπάρχει και το θέμα των εικαστικών, πολύ άγρια, μέσα στη... και που ενσωματώνει αυτό το πράγμα. Και επίσης αντίθετα με το mainstream, δεν ήθελα να κάνω, πώς το λένε, ταρζανιές.
That is difficult to translate. Go on. I will find a way to say it.
Ναι, δηλαδή συμφωνώ απόλυτα με τον Βερτόφ ότι δεν είναι ούτε αφήγημα, ούτε θέατρο, ούτε αυτό. Συμφωνώ απόλυτα. Αντίθετα με τη ζωγραφική έχω ένα άλλο ζήτημα.
Λοιπόν, μεταφράζω μέχρι εδώ και συνεχίζει. So, for Antoinetta, what is the real important relation with another art is with painting, not with theater. And she has discussed a lot, but also in her films, how she conceives cinema as painting with timing, much more than any relation to theater. Now, and she completely agrees with Vertov in that we see through cinema in ways that we can't see in other ways. Now, however, here that she wanted to speak about theater, and now she used a funny Greek word that it is difficult to translate. She didn't want to do some spectacular things that you can do because
Tarzan είναι διεθνές όνομα.
I know. Tarzan, you know who is Tarzan. Okay, Tarzania in Greek is when somebody is doing something very spectacular, like Tarzan. So she didn't want to do something very spectacular because it was possible. She wanted to be austere in the way she approaches it. Now, yes, να πούμε για τη ζωγραφική.
Όχι, εντάξει, η ζωγραφική είναι ξεκόλλημα των πινάκων και επανασύνθεση. Το ίδιο θα μπορούσαμε να πούμε ακόμα και για το θέατρο, το πώς είναι. Είναι δηλαδή αποδόμηση κάποιων πραγμάτων τα οποία επανασυντίθεται, όχι με τον τρόπο με τον οποίο γίνεται, ας πούμε, το κινηματογραφημένο θέατρο. Έτσι, δεν θέλω να πω, είναι τελείως άλλο πράγμα.
So, So her relation to paintings is not even there. Filmed painting is detachment of elements of paintings and reattachment of them. And it is a similar way what she tried to do with theater, not at all to film performance, but rather to detach some structural elements of the performance and reattach them in her way.
Και χωρίς προσπαθώ πραγματικά να μην κάνω εφέ καθόλου. Δεν μ' αρέσει καθόλου τα εφέ.
She's not interested in effects, you know, in a certain spectacularity, let's say. Yeah.
Και ως προς το πώς κατάλαβα την αφήγηση, πες αυτό που είπα στο Χρήστο, που είπα, είδα μια πάρα πολύ ωραία αφηγηματική. Είδα αυτή η αφηγηματική, ήταν πάρα πολύ ωραία. Ήταν ο καθρέφτης.
So one of the funny anecdotes that a friend remembered from Antoinetta's youth is that she went to a critic, another friend. So the other friend was watching them when they spoke, and she said, Christo, I finally saw a narrative film and I loved it. After all, narration is not that terrible. And what was the film? Tarkovsky's Mirror. So it's not her. Finally, she did see a narrative film.
Και εγώ βλέπω αφήγηση, γιατί βλέπω αφήγηση παντού. Όπως παραδείγματος χάρη ανέλυα στους φοιτητές τον Ανδαλουσιανό σκύλο.
Γιατί τώρα τον Ανδαλουσιανό σκύλο?
Λέω αυτό το ανέλυα κανονικά και τους έλεγα ποια είναι. Όχι μόνο δεν είναι, είναι αδύνατο να ερμηνευτεί, αλλά έχει μια κανονικότατη αφήγηση.
Ωραία, θα δώσω και μια εξήγηση σε αυτό. So, her approach to reading films is that many elements in a film narrate. So it's not only an issue of plot, but many elements that narrate. So doing that, she, for example, when she was teaching the university, she explained the Le Chien Andalou, and saying that it is not at all a riddle of a film. It's very clear what it says if you follow the inside narrations of images and this kind of stuff. So.
Yes, time is coming close. I don't know if there's
in life everything ends. Yes. We are not that dark and heavy people. That was a moment.
Όχι, δεν είναι. Η αλήθεια είναι ότι καθημερινά γελάμε πολύ γενικώς.
In everyday life we laugh at all, a lot, and not that frightfully as we did with our alter egos on screen. There is a whole feminist discussion about women laughing and how frightful it is to see a woman laugh, and that was a reference there, you know. Yeah. I thought so. So we thank.
Okay, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. So we have
got
a little bit into the world of your cinema in these days. So yes, I think we learned a lot. Oh, yes, we saw a lot, we felt a lot,
and we learned a lot.
Yes,
from the discussions.
So yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you very much.
Thank you very much.